And this is still Trekland HQ, and we are live. The Starfleet Academy and the Starfleet Runway. Today, episode 302 of Trekland Tuesdays Live with me, Dr. Trek, Larry Nemechek, coming at you here from the heart of Trekland through Portal 47 for some sanity, clarity, and the big picture in all things Star Trek. Here we are. Thanks again for joining us on another Tuesday. If you're new to Trekland Tuesdays Live, welcome, welcome. Such a great day. It's happy First Contact Day Eve. T-minus 40 years and counting, by the way. And will there be news tomorrow? Has it all been out there already? We'll get into that. But also, I just got to say how enthused and refreshed I feel. I actually had some rest, but best of all, I got out with some real fans back at a place I hadn't been before. It's always good to do that, get back and get off the trip and get back unscathed. But apart from that, seeing a lot of friends back in Southwest Louisiana, down in Cajun country, and really in a 5-state area, and watching them grow. Sci-Fi-Con, I really enjoyed it. It's been the first time since years and pandemic. So good to see everybody and see them on the growth path and get some real feedback from a cross section of folks, all different ages, actually. Even run around a little bit with the cosplay kids. But that's always good feeling. That's always good feeling because while I was gone, as I was out the door, so much happening last week with all the renewals, all the future. A lot of this is people are working. It's cough, cough. It just hasn't been announced publicly. It had. What finally came down the pike, though, to be announced publicly was all about Starfleet Academy show. And before I go any further, introduce yourselves in the chat if you're new to TTL. And if you're not, just check in with the family, with the community here. Just remember that if you are on Facebook, you're only seeing the Facebook chat. But everybody who is on YouTube and Twitch, you're seeing everything. And of course, if you're on YouTube, please go and like and subscribe and share and all that cool stuff. Lots going on this week. Some events here in LA this weekend. It's Yuri's night coming up at the end of the week. I'll talk about more of that. But when and of course, things are bubbling up. Picard is popular as ever, which is why in the middle of all this, and perhaps even getting ahead of what's become one of the big avenues, one of the big platforms that Paramount has for its own, it doesn't depend on a Comic-Con or another con. It has First Contact Day and Star Trek Day in the fall. And who knows, maybe even Pioneer Day. Pioneer, Frontier, to make news announcements. But no, they've jumped ahead of First Contact Day, which is April 5th. To be dribbling these headlines the last few weeks. Led off, finally, kind of climax by, the announcement of the Starfleet Academy show. Kind of came out of nowhere as I was getting on the plane to travel last Thursday, which was a big deal. Now, on one hand, oh, there it is. On the other hand, it's such an unguarded secret. It's one of the biggest known secrets ever the last few years that's one of the subsequent series waiting in the wings. It's been announced ever since Alex Kurtzman did his big deal a year into Discovery. His big deal to be basically the showrunner now for the current empire of current Trek. And that was one of the follow-on series mentioned. The other one, of course, was a Section 31. After a year of people being in love with, how could you not, of Captain Georgiou, Michelle Yeoh. And that's been a tortured path too. In a case, it was actually bumped off the launching pad when everything about Anson Mount and Pike and what became Strange New Worlds blew up. And I want to talk about that too, because it's as much as we talk about Starfleet Academy, there really is a Starfleet Runway as well. And it's already been a thing to behold. But yeah, Starfleet Academy, let's just remember for one thing, though. A lot of speculation based on this press release, actually the formal press release that the trades picked up on, Variety and Hollywood Reporter and Deadline and all of that. This interesting line in here, though. For the first time in over a century, our campus will be reopened to admit individuals, yada, yada, yada. which immediately tipped me off and many, many more to say, oh, they're going to set this Academy show in the 32nd century. That whole bit about 100 years, unless they're totally pioneering some new turf somewhere in between, that seems like a natural, because that's the story of the burn and the reopening. And what do you get with that? Well, do you get the continuation of Tilly? Do you get the continuation of any of those cadets that look like they were carefully cast and made much of, and even got into a little bit of their backstories in the 2 or 3 spotlight scenes we got of them near the end of Discovery, the last third of the season or so? That would make sense on a business and in an amortizing sense, because you've got all the 32nd century sets and props and costumes and familiarity with background, that would be its setting. Okay, will it specifically be about Tilly? Will she be a launching character? Think about how these things are creative, and they're not just iconic, and they're only 10 episodes. So it's overlaying the modern era of Trek with what's happening outside of Trek today, and also what our history of Trek series is. But yeah, that looks like a thinly veiled attempt to say that it'll be carrying on the 32nd century, which actually, for all the Sturm und Drang, for all the grief we've gone through to get to there and to create as much backstory there as we've had, it did seem like a crime to just completely back away from that era now that you've invested so much in it. And I know a lot of folks, it's not your cup of tea. Maybe that's been the storytelling choice. Maybe that's been the people in charge of running that particular series. Maybe that's a lot of things. Maybe it just took time to grow on you, just like it took time to grow on the writers and the creative team. Whatever that is, it's worth another shot, just as a lot of people are figuring out that the 3rd season of Picard was worth another shot. These things are not set in stone. They're not monolithic. And the streaming nature, we were just talking about this weekend, the streaming nature of, as disappointing it is to only get 10 shows, it's very flexible and malleable. And sometimes that's a good thing. You can have an instant restart without a lot of baggage and overhead and time investment. At the same time, you can be malleable and things can change. Hopefully it's always on an upward curve. And if anything, we've seen that, with Picard, and not to knock the first 2 seasons. But it's obvious that people are just in love with Picard. Now, if Starfleet Academy isn't that century, if it's going to carry on, it's the next one up. We've had these 2 series in mind here for so long, the Academy show, and talking about, there's been subsequent press releases. Let me just say, it's not just about the kids, although it feels that way. And you know what? If this is a CW angsty show, then so be it, because that's become a known genre. You've got all the DC, Marvel, especially the DC shows on WB. If this becomes an entry there, although it will be Paramount Plus, it will not be on the CW. Did I say the WB? Okay, I'm really going backwards. It will be that, but the press releases all talked about it, how it will also include their professors in and out of Starfleet. You've got civilians, you've got people in uniform. The young crew, okay, they're a little soap opera, maybe hopefully a little bit of that, but not too much. But also, for better or for worse, a deep, dark threat unknown to the Federation, much less the Academy. So I'm hoping they don't feel the need for the big bad, and we hang our hat on that. I'm hoping that the ever evolution of handling Star Trek in a serialized world, in a serialized universe, continues apace, and that does not become an albatross around the necks. So that's exciting. I don't mind seeing. I'd like to see ongoing check-ins with what's going on. We still haven't heard from Klingons, Romulans, Cardassians, whoever else has come along the pike in the last 800 to 900 years. There's still a lot of catching up to do, in the manner of catching up with the Romulans, and I guess we did. Romulans and Vulcans and Navarre, and seeing how that galactic millennial thread played out. And even the Trill update too. And the Earth update. And what's happening with the reunification of the Federation. They kind of give it lip service at the end of the season. We'll see. Obviously, we've got another season of Discovery to go before we get there. And it's feeling like, obviously, the last season of Discovery is going to end at 5. before we get there. Could the decision about ending six not been purely financial, but the need to maybe keep lay down some story points that can still launch the Academy show and maybe focus in the ending where it's not just a wrap up of Discovery, but it's also a more finely tuned setup for Academy show even before they thought they'd be doing that. Maybe so. Maybe that's part of the recipe here for what the added on scenes to finish off after 5 seasons will be with Discovery. What we do know is that's not going to happen now, not this fall, early winter. It's going to be all in 2024, ballyhooed up the wazoo, and that's fine. Meanwhile, yeah, we've got that mid-June arrival date for the new Strange New Worlds with Lower Decks kind of in its traditional slot, and then the next 10 of Prodigy after that. I'm assuming the next 10 with a gap. So that's our big picture going on. But as far as the Academy goes, that's one of the 2 shows on the runway. And can we just say before we go further, most of you know that the Academy idea is not a new one. In fact, it's been all kinds of things, and it's had all kinds of fan reaction. What a lot of folks are not up on, and we need to get to this on the Trek Files, is that the original idea for a Star Trek animated back in the early 70s, back on Saturday morning TV with all that was an Academy show, which if you think about it, that's how a lot of the post-run primetime series, familiarity. The thinking on Saturday morning TV is that, hey, if we've got a built-in audience, or at least a starter audience, we're so much further ahead. And you had the wacky tunes you had the legacy type tone coming out of Hanna-Barbera, coming out of Warner Brothers, even whether they're just replaying old theatrical cartoons. Thank you, Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, Roadrunner Hour, but what they can do, and then the adventure and the superhero creeping in, and then you had the whole big blow up TV media history lesson, psychology here after the assassinations and the horrendous violence of 1968 and the cleanup Saturday morning. Let's find some solutions. All the superheroes went away. All violence, even the cartoon violence, almost went away. And that's when you had the rise of it's the kids solving mysteries. That's when you had the rise of sometimes the kids have a band too. I mean, that's when you had the Scooby-Doo generation. No violence at all. The most violent anything happens is, cartoon violence. You're hit with a ton of goo, or you do a cartoon slide, whatever. And in the middle of that, part of what fit that formula was, let's take the Brady kids. Let's take the Harlem Globetrotters. Let's resurrect Laurel and Hardy. Let's do the Pink Panther. Although it was old school, iconic character, but in that mix, yeah, a cadet show from Star Trek would work just fine. It's NBC. Boom. We know there's some residual, especially within a year or so, there's residual love around it. And Star Trek was a kid's show. So, of course, it made sense. And it made sense to the powers that be to just dumb it down and have cadet kids, right? And whether or not it was going to depend, it was going to even feel like it was a link to Star Trek. That did not necessarily have to happen. There could be all kinds of wackadoodle boners if they just let anybody be in charge. But because Gene waded in, got the contract, Dorothy Fontana was the showrunner. It not only wasn't about kids and cadets, they decided, no, this is going to be a continuation of our adult adventures. We're not going to embarrass the brand, and we're sure not going to dumb it down and kidify it. And that's what happened. But that was the initial idea, until much like the initial idea of Next Generation. Gene waded back in and said, oh, no, I'm going to be hands-on with this, and here's what we're going to do. And, of course, NBC is like, fine, Gene, baby, just put it on TV. And going with Filmation. So that was actually the first blushing attempt. It's not rocket science to think about an Academy show, especially when the market is young people. So then flash forward to not that being the motivation, but the motivation being an aging cast. And after Star Trek V and after Shatner being indulged to direct, and the studios got that out of their way, and they've developed the favored nations clause between Leonard and Bill. After that, and the fact that 5 stumbled a little bit, and there was just a little bit of murmuring that maybe we shouldn't subject our hero actors to a full length, the excruciating schedule. Are they too old to do it? So the original blush was Harve Bennett wanted to do his famous Starfleet Academy movie. Introduced by an envelope story. Would it be Dr. McCoy telling stories to a bunch of wide-eyed, eager cadets? And if you saw the scenes in Picard this season of the wild-eyed cadets coming up to beg stories off the retired Admiral Picard, a Picard who is specifically at the time was supposed to be in humiliating exile at his wine ranch. Well, apparently he's eating in Los Angeles, so he's not that withdrawn. But that feeling, that vibe, that was going to be the opening scenario for the Academy movie. And we would get the origin stories, the backstories, played by, most importantly, a young Kirk actor, a young Spock actor, hell, even a young DeFore. Aside from the fact that they're at different ages slightly, but oh well. Young Scotties, that was going to be shoehorning. And then even younger Uhura's, she's a high school, I don't know. She and Sulu are high school kids interning at the Academy. They're on advanced placement programs. But the powers that be, and God bless them, and especially the way the next 2 years played out with Paramount, the studio being going through 2 administrative changes. The idea survived finally, but it wasn't Harve Bennett's idea. They decided the original cast needed one more send-off, and a better one. The Star Trek V left a bittersweet taste in a lot of people's mouth. It sure did for the accountants. One more. What would it be? Let's call in Nick Meyer again, get involved. And the idea survived through that overhead. And and we wind up with our signatures at the end and the feel-good moment. And a lot of Star Trek universe world building happens in Star Trek VI. But back at the launch pad, Harve Bennett feels like he's put so much into the franchise. He's been snubbed, and he thinks his only recourse is to take his marbles and go home. Much the same way Gene had felt when he was fighting over the time slot, and once Star Trek Original Series 3rd season was stuck back at the killer hour, the murder hour, late night Friday, date night, when none of his audience is going to be watching, or a big chunk of them won't be. He felt like he'd drawn the line in the sand and had to take his marbles and go home too. So, Harve did that, and his script is now out there, finally, after all these years. Would it have been a worthwhile addition if you put yourself back in the mind of the Star Trek franchise in our one cast? No, we had Next Generation by then. That's an interesting discussion at some point. But again, not new. In fact, it was so not new that then a sea change later, when we've had the pendulum swing 3 times, and it's 2006, 2007, and Star Trek has imploded, Viacom has imploded, but here comes J.J. Abrams on his shiny white horse to resurrect Star Trek. And it winds up being a Prime Universe edition, which was it winds up being a Kelvin alternate universe edition, which at the time I hated. Since then, it's thank God. But the format of the show in any timeline was going to be those young officers, to the point where once the storyline was out, Harve Bennett, who's now in retirement, Harve Bennett is out there, wants to take them to court, wants to take them to arbitration. Hey, you stole my idea. And they actually arbitrated, and I don't want to say basically ignored Harve by then, which was sad, but basically said, no, it's a new, they won the case, whether it was arbitrated or in the court of public opinion. So again, you have an Academy show in Star Trek 09. Now, it doesn't feel that way, and yeah, it can be fake universe. It can be not Prime. So we don't have to pay a total attention to it, aside from the experience that it was in the midst of a Star Trek graveyard. But again, this Starfleet Academy idea is not new, to the point that the idea was often floated at the time at pivot points in the Berman era. What's the next show going to be? DS9. Oh, Voyager. What about Voyager? What about the spinoff on from Voyager? Now, before UPN started to collapse and the world went with Enterprise, right? the sequel show. There was a lot of talk about doing an Academy show then, but in the 90s, late 90s and early aughts, fandom was pretty much united against doing that. You know why? The line was, no, everyone would say, please, no, Starfleet 90210, as a knock on Beverly Hills 90210, which was a huge show for the WB, huge show, but it was all teenage angst, and mainstream Star Trek fans who were so serious did not want to see a bunch of teenagers running around, with teenage acne and sex problems, and have that be the bottom line paradigm for their Starfleet drama and universe building and timeline adding to. So that was ballyhooed. I'd love to sit and talk and explore how far along that concept even got. But suffice to say, we didn't go there. We didn't go to Black Ops. We didn't go to medical psyops. We went with the founding of the Federation Romulan War, except we got cut off before we got to the Romulan War and the founding of the Federation. The whole point of that era was to get to that, and we didn't. And I will forever be bummed until we get back to it again. But again, this Starfleet Academy idea has been out there. Now, what's interesting now is that out of the gate, at the time Alex had his renewal, 2018, and set up the situation, the structure, the framework, once we went through the baby steps and once, oh my God, Discovery's birthing pains through 3 sets of parents, it feels like. Once that was quasi-settled and the smoke had started to clear a little bit, and I'm talking on the end that matters. I'm talking about the money and the structural end. And the fan debate would go on for a long time, obviously. Dear Captain Pike entered the screen and started to drive a narrative there about the future. But until then, the initial announcement here was just a deal, right? And at the same time, people started to openly talk about things in the pipeline, other ideas, other series pitches that were out there. Not in the official CBS All Access release at the time, but you had the trade papers, you had Variety, Hollywood Reporter, Deadline, openly speculating the murmurs and the whispers that had confided, the unsourced chatter. And there were always two more plus another one not mentioned. Section 31, which by that time people were in love with Michelle Yeoh, pre-Oscar, and the Academy show. And yes, there were some who were groaning again, oh, please, not Starfleet 90210. Same thing of the 90s, 20 years resurrected, but an awful lot of the world seemed to not embrace it. But it was down as a rumor. It was an unsourced, here's what we hear, down, 5 paragraphs down after the initial announcement. And a lot of Stephanie Savage, who had done several shows, WB, was often linked as the producing partner origin source. And that was fine. I still wondered what tone they would take, especially early on with the Kurtzman era, just the machine being in place. And that was one of those ideas that got kicked down the road. Now, what was higher profile? Section 31 was always higher profile. We know that there was actually a month and a half of development on Section 31 before the Ensign Mount Pike tsunami became apparent. It probably linked a lot in with Michelle Yeoh's schedule, who would have been part of a Section 31 show. So for all those reasons and the reasons we have yet to hear about, but we can kind of roughly guess, Strange New Worlds takes its place next on the Starfleet runway, and it's the next to take off. And as everything goes along, and now we've had the recent drama about the streaming industry retrenching, all of that, and is Discovery with its geriatrically old 5 seasons. Oh my God, you went 5 seasons on streaming, and a 6th was in the works until it was cut back to 5 and repurposed at the end. As we sit and watch that and think, is that the fall off from this industry wide, the end of the free money? Throw the money at it and we'll see what sticks. These 2 shows are still on the touchpad, and Alex and others at Secret Hideout have mentioned them themselves. This is not rumors in the shadows. They get it's still alive. It's still alive. What I was curious about was the fact that Section 31, I assume, would be the first out of the gate. And whether Michelle is now part of it full time, which I doubt, or whether she helps launch the 2-hour pilot movie or whatever you call the way Discovery launched. Whatever happens there, whatever the makeup is, whatever century and setting it winds up being set in, I just assumed it would be next. But no, it's going to be the Academy. So it's not a new one. I think of all the times, and listen to me here, I think of all the times an Academy idea has been out there and floating, this might be the best time for it to be the best received, and best of all, the best conceived and crafted. I think all those other times throughout Trek history, an Academy show might well have been problematic, given to the sway of the times. And of course, Harv's script was a 2-hour movie, or their goofy Paramount might have thought that was ripe for a spinoff at that point. Who knows? We've had Aaron Spelling producing it. But I think if you're going to do an Academy show, I think this is the most mature time in this franchise to see. I think if the timing is right, the people in charge. And what's interesting is, of course, if you were following along at home, the producing partner for this, Noga Landau, new to Star Trek, was a writer on Nancy Drew, executive producer of Nancy Drew and Tom Swift. I didn't even know there was a Tom Swift series on the CW. So youth oriented, okay. We'll see what happens. Hopefully responsible, hopefully within the parameters of all that. Hopefully they handle it. But it's a new tone and a new voice. Not someone from the Star Trek family, but a new tone, new voice going with that. And if you do still have trepidations about an Academy show, let's stop and think here. We went to Prodigy to get the young kids. We went to Adult Swim, to Lower Decks for the Adult Swim audience, right? For the snarkier side. So anybody, teens and 20-somethings. So Gen Z, I know we all enjoy. See, the thing is, Prodigy and Lower Decks, though, are not just for that target audience, the target demographic. They're made, I think, so well, and I think the proof's in the pudding, and I think Prodigy especially woke a lot of people up to that idea even faster than, or it took longer than Lower Decks, but they got there. That, the target audience doesn't have to be the lone audience, and it can be expanding by its borders. And I would love to see the Academy show appeal to anybody older than 25. That would be nice. And I think that's probably what's in the field. That's the bar. That's the goal. That's the mission. We'll see how they do. It's been in development for a while now. All of these shows, I think Discovery being cut back from 6 to 5 years was a surprise to everybody involved, obviously. Other than that, and Section 31 has gone through a couple of eras of generation being put back on the burner. People had to move on with their lives, and we'll find out more about that as we move along. But this comes down to, we've been watching that part of the runway, if I may create a phrase. But what we have not been watching is the runway of now the last 2 months. Right. And so we've got there may be whole sections of fandom now that think hashtag Star Trek Legacy is a series that's been in development for ages. And it's almost a tightrope. It's like, be careful what you wish for, Lieutenant. You may get it. Picard season 3 has been so astonishing, and it's been such a revelation. Now, it's these series, Star Trek and these series, they're all just people. They're all just people. Next Generation season 1 and season 2, if you want to go to a classic example. Original series season 2 had Gene Coon inserted into the mix. Late season 1, early season 2. Season 3 did not, although there was carryover. Season 1 and 2 of Next Gen did not have someone who fit the mold and fit in greatly, like Michael Piller. It was the Chaos on the Bridge carousel of folks, some of whom might have had a different shot had it been at a different time, a different mix of people. But mixes of people and timing is everything. And then you love it when you get it, you're in agony, or you're just frustrated when you're not. And we've seen that, how history will judge the run of the Picard show itself. But certainly right now, people are as excited, and there's a mini movement. And of course, they want to crown Terry. Hashtag Terry Trek is a thing, and it should be. Part of me, the cynical side of me, will say, well, yeah, this is what happens when you hire people that know what they're doing. There's an ethical point through all of this, and it's on the art side and it's on the writing side. What are the two core premises of Star Trek to make it popular? You got to have a good core show. You got to have the writing and the character format and mix, and you've got to present it. As we have seen, you've got to still have it linked to the Star Trek universe. The more, the merrier. The point is, do you only hire people for those positions that are old Star Trek fans, whether or not they worked on a previous Star Trek or not? Does that lead to inbreeding, however well intended? Do you still need the fresh blood, the fresh, attitude? People famously say Nick Meyer came to Star Trek having not seen one single frame of Star Trek until he sat down. So you never know on some cases, but here's a happy case where Terry's just set the light on fire, and he has a writer's room, and he's still working, obviously, with Kiva and with and Alex on Up the Ladder and the whole Secret Hangout team. But this season was his baby, and going through even the folks who were already in line creatively in the decisions being made. There's a huge groundswell, for Star Trek Legacy, hashtag. Will it be the next series? And there's probably fans who are just enraptured with Picard who may not tune into the fact that there were already, yes, 2 Star Treks on the runway. They were on the tarmac waiting to take off, taking their turn, one of them even being bumped once before for various reasons. Does the mob who is so enraptured with Picard and demanding hashtag Terry Trek and demanding Star Trek Legacy, are they going to sit tight while maybe the best thing since sliced bread happens as these other 2 series run? Or is the tone of things going to be such that they have to bide their time for a year, 2 years, 3 years, if ever? Is there going to be blowback? Are we going to have, friendly rivalries? The last thing I want to see is for there to be any kind of, I don't know, this sounds so petty to say, but it's NBC looking at Gene saying, come on, Gene, you're underfunding this mail-in campaign, right? This Save Star Trek campaign. You're behind that, really? And he's saying, no. Now, of course, we know now that he was. But at the time, the thing was, he was just lighting the match. The Tinder out there was all too happy to take up the banner. Now, that's not what's happening here. It's a fun thing. You're smart and savvy. You're in a world where there are many series coming along. Maybe not even 10-episode seasons here. Maybe you've got mini movies. Maybe you've got 3-parters. They're talking openly about that as a response to the very ratcheting down of streaming. Alex Kurtzman himself talked about we need to get back into other formats of storytelling, not just the 10-episode-a-year season that now is the norm. And I'm looking back at you, Nick Meyer, for your 3-part SETI Alpha 5 show, Between the Kirks. Maybe it can come back. Maybe it can come off podcast status after all. No. It's a wild, wild world. It's just that the irony of Picard being so popular this year with so much potential, and yes, with a legacy cast right there of new characters, old characters, who would want to put it on? Who would want to be a regular and who would want to be a guest? And now we're talking about a regular is someone just doing 10 episodes. Now they're shot. They're not 7-8 days. They may be 10, 11, 12. It may be 3 weeks for a 2-episode block, the way Picard shot it. So you may have a little bit longer, but it's still 10, not 26. What's going to be the future there? I'm just wondering about all the fans who are in the campaigns now, the Star Trek Legacy campaign, about sitting to wait. Because these other 2, never say never, but these other 2, Academy has been announced now, which is further than Section 31 ever got. Section 31 was on the launch pad with a payroll for 6 weeks, but was never formally announced as coming. There was never a release date or even a release window to be announced. So Academy is further along than Section 31 was. Methinks by the time the corporate machinery announces a show, they don't want to take it back. That's the whole point. So it will be next. we're at least going to be waiting for one. Discovery won't be off the airwaves until next year. There won't be a hole opened up until then. Picard, of course, will be off. They'll be filling Picard's slot. So all this thing about timing and do they still keep 5 shows on a year? It's just we've maybe got lesser budgets. We've gotten smarter about the overhead since the early pioneering Discovery days. And there's a phrase I never thought I'd say, but there it is. The early pioneering Discovery days of 2017 and 2016. Just wondering what's going to happen with that, because that's certainly the buzz right now. Star Trek Legacy, people are just waiting, hoping, dreading, and Terry talking openly about, I have nothing to say. I am not in talks. I do not work for anyone in Star Trek or Paramount. Getting to be very obvious and very open. No one who worked on the last season of Picard, unless they're working multi-shows already, but nobody has a deal. There's no secret plan that just hasn't been announced. It's just going to have to wait. And of course, as all good things happen, Terry's best advice just recently with at the live panel, at the Mark and Darren's panel by remote, talking about what can fans do? Just keep up the peaceful protests, keep up the hashtagging, keep up the campaigns. We're not the letter writing era anymore. We're not paper and stamps, but all the ways. There's a petition at change.org, I think, to have it be. That's what you do. That's basically what brought us Strange New Worlds. It was a different world then. The infrastructure was not all set out in stone with 5. I mean, this seems amazing, but just a short 3, 4, 5 years ago, things were still blue sky and nothing settled in stone. And how does CBS All Access fill out their schedule of Trek so that the Trek folks don't turn it off if they don't particularly care for anything else? Well, we're past that now, and it's a little more problematic. There's a little bit more weight and gravitas to shift around now. And people have been in line for a while. And that's not going to be disrupted unless something completely bizarre happens that we don't foresee right now. It won't be another case of the tsunami of popular demand comes in and one or two other things click right to make that happen. Probably not going to happen this time. So, yes, Star Trek Legacy, if that is indeed your name, may have to wait 2 years, 3 years, just because. Just because. And so we got a channel. Jeez. We have to channel that in the right way. And hopefully we can do that. How do you channel this? I created a monster. How do we channel that for all the best ways and not let that need to a competitive negativity, a competitiveness about who's going to be the next Star Trek show? I hope that doesn't emerge. I don't know, because I still saw people in my feeds still leaning on this great Picard show that I've seen fandom united as not in the last 5, 6, 7 years over. You know, people, as much as they love Lower Decks, a lot of people just didn't like the humor slant. And I get that. That's fine. A lot of people were their doubts and fears were overcome. And Prodigy, I still just feel like a lot of people don't take it seriously to watch it. I think that's changing more and more and more. I'm doing my part to get them there, and as is Cadet Alice. But you know, I think the animated shows just have a built-in fall off in viewers. So there's a lot going on here. Who's paying attention and all that? I don't know. What do you think? We can talk about it here in the chat in a minute. I think that's going to do it here for the soapbox. So hang on, I'm going to get to the chat in a minute, everybody. And I will just say, if you are watching this later, I wish you could join us live sometime. We're here at 1 Pacific, 4 Eastern, 9 UK GMT time, and 10 Central Europe. It'd be great to have you live if you can. But hang on. We're going to talk about the Parrot Analytics ratings and some other metrics that have been out. And in the case of Picard, that's awesome too. But I would be remiss if I did not thank, an ever-shifting lineup of our TTLers, our Patreons. The TTL Club this month is Diana Hopkins and Robin Wilson, Lawrence Todd, Anne-Marie Siegel, Justin Porteous, Galinda Bruton, Chris Jiggins, Pranakasha Productions, Ryan and Andrew Jasimski, and our live wires. Robin McLean, Byron Bailey, J.R. Poole, Hubbard Gunn Johnson, Alan Hoense, Dave Gregory, Tobias Rex, Donna S. Runyon, welcome Donna, and Casey Shafsky. That's it. What am I saying? Our Patreon is very simple. There's a $5 and a $10 level. You can go more if you want to, but that's all we're asking. It's patreon.com/Trekland Live. Maybe you go, you see something else you like too. They do that at the end of the month, so we just started a fresh month. But I'd love to have you aboard. We're gradually, slowly expanding the streaming end here at Trekland and making it possible to do a little bit more there. So we'd love to get the numbers up, although I am keeping it simple. But the more you help, the more help we can have here. So thanks, everybody, for doing that. I would be remiss if I did not mention that the storied 10th season of the Trek Files, our podcast for Roddenberry, is continuing. This week we have back Gary Goddard, who was at the head of Landmark Entertainment, and we talk again about the saga that led to the late great Star Trek: The Experience. And we especially talk about if you experienced it, speaking of the active word there, or if you've only heard about it, we talk about the development and the, would you believe, accidental nature of the storied transporter on the original Experience ride, which became the Klingon encounter. Yeah, check it out. The docs are there. We've got some more production art and some charts and a chart of the floor plan of the Experience. All there, the ground floor anyway, at our site on Facebook. You can catch it anywhere, the audio, where all fine podcasts are caught. But our docs of the week and our home base is there at Facebook, the Trek Files. So check that out too. And yeah. I do want to say, if you're in the LA area, come out to Yuri's Night next Saturday night at the California Science Center. It's become a big deal. My friend Amy Ingram is helping bolster the turnout. There are going to be more Trek people there than ever before. I'm going to be there. Janet's supposed to be with me. And just more, Yuri's Night honors the anniversary of the night of the first person in space, Yuri Gagarin. Yes, he was a cosmonaut. And yes, we love our Alan Shepard and Grissom and John Glenn. But in a global sense, they're honoring the first night of a man in space, a person in space, human in space. And with a lot of science educational, there's some science fiction aspects, but science fiction is the inspiration. I'm looking at you, 1701, in the Smithsonian Restored. The inspiration for all the real world aviation and space and our future looking. And there'll be all kinds of special guests and exhibits and things. So if you're in SoCal, Yuri's Night's actually global, and you should check out events near you. I know there's something in Houston and there's something in New York, East Coast. But venues large and small are having a Yuri's Night events. You might want to check it out near you too. Might even be on the other side of the anniversary and a week later, I believe some are. But here in LA, it's under the Endeavor shuttle before it's removed to build a whole new pavilion for it in a couple of years. It's exciting. It's fun. A lot of fun. A little something different and yet just the same. So if you are around, I'd love to see you there for that too. That's going to be it for us, gang. I'm going to take just a short break. We'll be back. But if you are leaving us right now, if you're watching on YouTube and later, hey, just, stay healthy. Do all the things, okay? Stay woke. Check your sources. Keep your ears open. And trek well, everybody. Now, as promised, let's dip into the parent analytics and other metrics of measurement, and then I will dive into the chat full bore. We will back scroll if you're new. Don't worry. We've got the whole thing here, and I will get back to it. So the parent analytics, yada, yada, streaming services don't need the Nielsen's, the old traditional Nielsen's, right? Although they're still going. Broadcast needed measurements to charge ad rates. It's a moot point with the streamers. In fact, they love having it be secret information that they can control. But what we're looking at here is we've been following these since the dawn of Discovery back in the fall of 2017. The live action Treks tend to be, 100% in the top 10 most of the time. Sometimes they've sagged out of the top 10 in the US. Parrot Analytics, by the way, measures this, uses the internet with their metric. And they are doing it in countries all over the world. They do a global, but they're doing the United States all the way down to tiny, small markets. So they've got, we look at the US, it's posted at their site every week. Generally, I think the last 6 months or so, they are selling off their most recent numbers, apparently to TV Geek. So they're lagging a week or so behind. So looking at it, March 24th, a week off, of the streaming shows and their metric, average demand expression, for the week, Star Trek Picard was still in the top 5 at their factor of the times the popularity of an average show. So Picard was coming in at 43.7 times the popularity of the average. Out of 400, 500, 600 shows they're surveying here. Ahead of it was Mandalorian, 71, Stranger Things, Ted Lasso, Shadow and Bone, new show, and then Picard, and then Daisy Jones, apparently the heat's off of that, and Titans, The Problem with Jon Stewart, bumped in there, and The Witcher. So yeah, the bottom of the top 10 a week ago in the US was 25.9. So Picard's up there. It's in the top 5. And then overall, as of a week ago in the US, South Park, SpongeBob, Mandalorian, and Stranger Things are the only 2 that are in the top 10 of overall shows, which, Simpsons, My Hero Academia, Attack on Titan, Last of Us. It's not all anime. The Flash, Game of Thrones. The Flash. Is that the Starfleet Academy demo they're going to go for? But that's that. Now, what TV Geek has is up-to-date numbers. And if we're looking at that as the popularity, as the online activity, I mean, sure, hashtag stuff Star Trek Legacy, but put Star Trek Picard in there too. So it's still counting and turning up on these metrics. The peak demand in the last week, it says it peaked at number 21, but that makes no sense. It's still up there. Here's what's interesting. These most recent ones, peaking at 43.7, which their number as of the end of March, I'm getting into the weeds, I know. Yeah, 43.7. It peaked above that. It was up to, what were we here at? 49.5 at one point. That's the average demand they're giving. But what's interesting is, so Flix Patrol is another site, and thank you, John X, for pointing me this way, that's giving actual numbers from some of the streamers. So Amazon Prime, which of course will carry, if you don't want to deal direct with Paramount Plus, if you just want everything in your Amazon Prime wallet, you can see Paramount Plus shows without leaving Amazon Prime. It's the same price. I can't believe it's at least a nickel cheaper. But they're putting out numbers, and here's the thing. On March 26th, globally, Picard was the number 1 show on Amazon Prime, followed by Daisy Jones and the Six, and Carnival Row, a co-creation of our friend Renee Chavarria, by the way, with the Trek Legacy there. And then on April 1st, no fooling, Picard was number 2 on Saturday, April 1st. Number 2 in the world, and it was number 2 in the US alone. So Flix Patrol via Amazon Prime and other channels, they're delineating national numbers. So we look at the US, but also their global reach. And of course, right, that's it. So there's the folks that are, I don't know, still bad math. And I had one or two, you can look at my YouTube for Second Opinion last week's episode. Someone, and you know what, they can do this, it's fine, but someone is still all hung up on it's all nostalgia, it's all member berries. Can we have a new show instead of just and I totally am up with that. I would never want to have a copy. Never wanted to have a copy of the originals of the Next Generation recast, doing the same adventures. I would never want that. What I told the person, though, commenting there, was I said, okay, you can say that, but I have 2 words for you. Liam Shaw is not a member berries nostalgia kick, and neither is Sydney LaForge, aside from her DNA lineage. But the bridge crew, this bridge crew has been, Esmer and Tavine and Murrow has been used more than the bridge crew on Discovery for the first year and a half. I mean, they're like, oh yeah, we got these people. I mean, it's, only have 3 of them who are online, but they're there. In fact, just so I'll show you this. Terry Metalis on his Twitter, dangerously today, and you can still do this if it's going to be up away. Oh, it's got 4 days. It's a 5-day poll. He's voting. 10,000 have voted as of right now. Who is your favorite season 3 captain? And he's got Admiral Picard, Captain Riker, Captain Shaw, and Captain Vadic. Oh, how open-minded. And look who's the runaway winner as of the time I voted. Well, of course. So this meme, which is fun to do. So jump on Terry's Twitter and go vote and put your voice in. But this meme about this season is surviving on nostalgia. I even pointed out, I said, well, even for the original legacy characters, there are threads dangling for 30 years. I'm looking at you, Picard and Bev. Something may be reverberating even with Will and Deanna. But Geordi and Data. Geordi's scene, morning Data got cut out of Nemesis. I mean, it's there. Worf. Worf, you knew, was going to be multitasking. He was never going to be in a rut, right? Worf was going to be all over the place. That's 30 years worth of storytelling to say. That's not nostalgia. That's you're curious about these people. But there were actual threads dangling that we never really had closure on. And this particular person said, oh, no, it was all wrapped up in all good things. And I wanted to say, well, I've got a whole global community of Beverly Crusher fans who would beg to differ. But there you go. 20 years since Nemesis. But that's fine. That's fine. It was, intelligently written. I could tell it wasn't a bot troll. So that's fine. But that percentage of folks, for whatever reason, is such a minority right now. I've said it before, whether you're a shipper or a shipper last week, there's something for you in Picard. And it's been kind of amazing to watch. And that's why there's this growing demand to just hand all the keys for all future Trek over to Terry. Which isn't going to happen, at least not right this second. But it's clear he needs to be completely in the Star Trek wing, under the Star Trek umbrella. I could not be happier, and I could not be happier for the franchise, and I couldn't be happier for him, because, as I've said a couple of times, I remember when he was a long-suffering PA on Voyager and a long-suffering assistant. And I say that as a guy he got to sell a couple of scripts to Enterprise and launch his writing career, and has proven himself as anybody who starts with Star Trek and wants to come back and run something later, be involved. It's that old case of go off and prove yourself elsewhere. Don't be completely incestuously raised here, because you need the experience of that, which gets us back to the whole bit about hiring. Who are you hiring? Who are you putting in positions? You want to have some fresh blood circulating, and what's the mix on that? And everybody's still, whether you're a fan or not, and you're a professional in one area or not, we're all still individuals. We all still have our personalities. What's the mix? You know what your work situations are like. You know when your place of employment or your team has been more optimum or less so. And sometimes everybody's sincere, good people. It's just a matter of experience. There's all kinds of factors. And a TV show, a TV series or movie, anything, an entertainment production, like anything, is still the sum of the parts of its people and what they bring to it. Okay. There we go. So that was the Parrots and the Flix Patrol and a little bit more. Let's dive in. I'm back scrolling. We'll see what's going on with everybody. And if I stirred any, did I stir the shit, or did I stir a hornet's nest, or just maybe some thoughtful thoughts? We'll see. See who's been able to make it. Hashtag. Okay, Nathaniel. Very nice here. This is a new one. I hadn't seen this, but I'm totally with you. I mentioned it myself a week ago. Hashtag remember Alexander. Okay. And I saw you pop up on my Sophia. It has been too long, but I'm glad to have you. Glad to have our Portugal representative back in on Tuesday. helping us be as global as we can be. Andy, my gosh. Thank you, sir. Andy Farber, ladies and gentlemen, great jazz musician, band leader, orchestra leader, composer of some of the scores of some Star Trek Continues, and huge, huge fan, of course. Good to see you, Andy, if you're still with us. I love to see Sophia getting some hellos from everybody. See, gone but not forgotten. Howdy do, Kyle. Thank you. Kyle's among the ones that's making our new video generation look so good, everybody. So shout out there. The heart and liver of Trekland. We did not drink that much last weekend, John X. I'm gonna report in right now. Oh, is this a hashtag I missed out on? Bring back Boothby? Well, they'll have to recast, you know. Ray Walton is no longer among us. Mm-hmm. Hey, Linda, if you are going to do on 2 series, let the YouTube flow. So I'm getting the live, I'm getting the live points from live YouTube. Okay. Now, what are you saying here, Scott? You've decided to let go of the time period of Starfleet Academy, but you hope it's set on Earth. We've never had a series set there, and this could be the opportunity rather than floating nebula space station out there as a sparkly blue space bubble. I know. Well, I've always wanted a Star Trek West Wing, and the Academy, which would not be about young teenagers and learning and lessons and all of that, and growing up and maturing and all their soap operas, and seeing the universe through their eyes. I wanted to have the West Wing, the political intrigue of the Federation members, and still being able to bop out to a crisis, whether it's a Starfleet crisis or a civilian crisis, whether it's a member or a not member, and be in an era where we could have our legacy characters pop in and out, whether it's Kirk Pike era or it's Picard, Sisko, Janeway era. I don't think that. Okay, I'm going to stop clicking on your section. That was strange. Hey, Mario. Good to have you with us. Yes. Boothby. Boothby is forever. Yes. Oh, you need to find that Bennett script. Scott, talk to me. What will Melanie, what will San Francisco and the rest of the world be like in the future? Will they still have nuclear vessels in Alameda? Oh, I hope not. Hello, Jordan. Jordan, I think you've been with us before on Tuesdays, right? But if not, hello and welcome. Still holding that baseball for Captain Sisko. I wonder why Sisko's baseball isn't in the Fleet Museum, much less at Daystrom Station. Yes. Always for Vernon Wilmer. Yeah, I think you saw our visit last week, right? Our TTL from last week, right? Okay, Nathaniel. Of course, when you write a novel, Nathaniel, it only displays so much here, so I'll have to read the end of it. But you're thinking it might be a great way, the Academy show, to bring up various new aspects of the later Discover era. I know. Your one concern is that we are, again, without a significant outside perspective on the universe, tossed out in Picard in season 2, and it looks like it won't hold until into Prodigy season 2. Well, we'll see. Every becomes Starfleet, greatly narrowing what diversity means. It reminds me what Ira says to those who wanted Bajor in the Federation. It's founded on the desire to see others validate American values and powers. I see. To have the outside, the Spock or the Odo or the Data Worf perspective on that. Tossed out by Picard in season 2 when they're all running around. Yeah, I see what you mean. Worrying about the narrowing of diversity. We'll see. Very true, Melanie. And we talked about that. I've talked about that for ages, since the comeback of Discovery, especially. They were skeptical. The fans, a chunk of fans were. I was thrilled because I'm like, are you kidding me? It's new. And Gene is running it. That's all I needed to know. But a lot of people were very butthurt about the fact that it was not. How could it be Star Trek if it wasn't Kirk's? But that's your limitations of the time. The concept of a franchise was a new thing. No one thought in those terms in those days. So good on the compromise. We can't recast them yet, so we'll do this. That was the compromise solution. Who knew it was going to open up a far bigger? Thank goodness for accidents. Thank goodness for timing. Well, hey, back at you, Diana. Good to see you. Hey, Doralta. Yes, I see you. I see you. I see you. Let's see here. Okay, well, there's a vote for. I mean, I'm looking forward to Starfleet Academy too. Also. Okay. This is totally fine, Nathaniel. You have been watching Picard season 3, not feeling the Terry love. Remember Alexander. Totally fine. You gotta have something to be. We have to have texture, not trivia. Somehow that includes fandom. Okay. Hey, Carl. Want to see some more short treks? Is that idea dead? Well, I still think short treks was not like a series. It was a device. It was a means. They needed to workshop ideas, new writers, new directors, maybe even actor characters, maybe even flesh out something that happened in Discovery. Remember we had Poe, the princess, long name Poe. Different aspects. They got to workshop a little bit of Spock and Number One, Rebecca and I started to say Brent, Ethan, Brent. So it's not like it served its own thing. It served a purpose, and maybe they'll come back around to that. A budget of a very cheap way of exploring a concept, or just getting it out there to look see what a little sample, a little paint chip of a Star Trek. You are rewatch. This is what I mean to do now too. I've seen people doing this, rewatching Discovery now, 6 years later, and it was quite okay. Okay, Scott's another vote for more short treks. Me too. Maybe we'd finally get to Teller Prime that way. I didn't mean to get into you guys' meetup. Okay, fine. Hey, Melanie. How many timelines are there? Well, in quantum theory, there would be an infinite number of timelines. I mean eras. It's hard to keep up with the chronology. Cochrane, Archer, Pike, Kirk, then Picard, DS9, Voyager, then Discovery is all over the place. Well, two. You're not sure what time periods are set for Lower Decks and Prodigy after Next Gen. Lower Decks is about 3 years after Voyager returned. I'm got to get back into this. I want to say it's like, if it's 81, Prodigy is like 83. So Prodigy and Lower Decks are a couple years apart, and Lower Decks is a little earlier. They're after Voyager's returned, about 3 years to 5 years. But the synth attack on Mars and the Romulan supernova are all about 5 years away. That's 2387-ish. So that's that. And then, of course, you get to the end of the century for the Picard update and all. You are liking the humor in Discovery. There was humor in Discovery. And in Picard Season 3, Riker was funny indeed. Yes, absolutely. What now? Get some. I forgot. Get some what? Oops. Okay. Oh, thank you, Dave. Season 10 Trek Files, great episode on the development experience. Yeah, it was a part 2, which I knew we'd need. We couldn't squeeze everything in. There we go. Wade, you are in the house. I can always count on you to let us know. Well, see, this is a thing. Yuri's Night is the 12th of April, Frontier Day. Frontier Day. You need to watch Second Opinion. That's the thing. We were trying to date it from the legit star dates, the old 1,000-unit system. And if, excuse me, everybody, it's live. If, what am I trying to say here? If Frontier Day is indeed the apex event of this Picard season, and if it's the finale episode, episode 10, then the whole season of Picard is just 1 week. It opens saying it's a week until Frontier Day, and they've been slicing away timeline. I'm a little concerned about how much they're bopping around known space to fit in 12 hours and 24-hour travel segments, but hey, you got your Cochrane factor in there. The local density of space, or the density of local space. So Frontier Day, I thought Frontier Day was, I thought I'd read was the launch, commemorating the launch date of the NX-01, the Enterprise, which was the first deep space ship, like beyond the Boomer's freighter capacity. And that's why it was so historic. But that's into April, and that doesn't fit with the 1,000. So we'll see. We'll settle things out. Frontier Day will get set, and we will do it, and we'll have to adopt the 1,000-day unit stardate system to make that fit, and we'll just throw in Cochrane constant. That's the fudge factor. And have I lost everybody now? We were in the weeds there. Okay. That's not fair to do. Gotcha. Hey, May, am I hosting a table at Yuri's Night or just going as a guest? I saw there will be a Nichelle Nichols tribute table. Well, the Nichelle Nichols Foundation will have a table for information about the foundation. No, I'm not having a table. It's guesting. Oh my God. Just for 3 hours to go and, yeah, I will probably have cards on me if somebody wants to hook up and talk about anything Trekland. But no, not a table. Not a table. I think that's mainly for the nonprofits and the really science-minded groups. And Nichelle Nichols, yes. Jenny Johnson, hello. I think we have yet to meet live, but thank you for coming by Tuesday. And I love your stuff. And congrats on crossing the line into the professional, the licensed official world. Good stuff rises to the top. Okay. Would all say that. See, you got fans all over the world. See, but you knew that already. I know. Let's see. Okay, I'm looking for a question. Looking for questions. The problem with Jon Stewart is that another DC show taking place in the Green Lantern universe. No, you may not know Jon, longtime host of The Daily Show, the apex to me, in his show that he finally came back to do now, occasionally. Oh, there you go. Another vote for Renee's creation there on Carnival Row. All nostalgia. Sometimes it looks like a DS9 cover band. Yeah. Those leather jackets. There's a demand for the leather jackets. Hey, Jason, you think it makes sense for Starfleet Academy to exist in a Discovery time frame because it would make references to lessons learned by Starfleet officers that we're familiar with over the years? Yes. And they can pull the old original series stunt of mentioning people that we're not familiar with in the intervening years. And now 10, 15, 20 years later, there can be a series all set out about that one-time mention of that person who must be sometime between the 24th and the 32nd century. 25th, 26th century, I should say. So yes, I'm totally with you there. It does make sense. But they have all those sets and pieces, and why not just amortize all that and keep reusing that? At least one other series. It's not like the old days when you felt like, oh my God, these are so expensive. The whole franchise is going to be in the late 24th century. Yes, indeed. Uh-oh. John's chiming in now. They can not only mention them, they can hologram them. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you, John. I'm going to jump back here. John Connor's asking me if you can't see this, but is YouTube or Twitch or whatever, more profitable in terms of viewers. In my case right now, we're working on YouTube. I don't game enough to run a gaming Twitch stream. Oh, okay. But yeah, if you have a choice, please come over, and especially if you're multiplying, doing multiple channels, do YouTube, everybody. It helps us. It helps us more right now what we're pursuing. Let's see. Looking for folks. Oh, thank you, Christoph, for bopping in with that. Hello. There we go. Terry's Twitter poll is here. And of course, like I said, the runaway favorite right now is Shaw. Oh, Duralta. Captain Shaw was good, but Captain Hansen was better. She's just a commander. I'm assuming the ship's logs and other historical documents have survived the burn. Well, one would think you could go with that kind of eugenics wars. Some records are fragmentary, but I would think core records are. You would think that Federation headquarters and Starfleet HQ have central data banks, and a lot of the ships weren't wrecked. Their engines were just wrecked. They lost their dilithium exploded, but not their warp engines. And since dilithium is not about magnetic containment of antimatter, I would like to think that they didn't, cataclysmically lose all the ships. They just were dead. They just couldn't warp until they had a replacement fuel for warp. So I would like to think at least some of the and what happened to Memory Alpha? I mean, the real Memory Alpha, not the little 20th century computer database. 21st century, actually, yes. I think this too. I think season 2 of Carnival Row is meant to be its second season. Shaw works. He could have been a great character for Discovery season 1. Yeah, but let's not waste him there. He's in his own best place. He's in his own best destiny, right where he is. Okay, Christoph. Regarding the nostalgia factor, you still prefer any classic TNG over Picard. Jury is still out on Strange New Worlds. Low bar. Also, lower decks. 5th season confirmed. Oh, yes. SFA. See, this has bugged me since day one, because the grammarian in me, the wordsmith editor, wants to call, because you know what? Long before there was a series Starfleet Academy, there was just the term Starfleet Academy that we used. And it killed me to say SFA, because Starfleet is one word, which is a whole thing of itself, because did you know that all the original series scripts, they wrote Starfleet as 2 words, S and F capitalized? And the one time we see Starfleet written out, it's on the cover of the Talos 4 order, right? The General Number 7 secret order with the red binder, and they wrote it as 1 word. So since that's the visual, and it's an official Starfleet order, we override the way it was written in all the original series scripts, and probably even early ones in Next Generation, as Starfleet, capital F. Seeing that, Starfleet Academy should actually be acronymized as SA. It should just be SFA. But no one wants to do that. That could be South America. That could be a million things. And everybody wants to say SFA, even though that's technically not correct. That's what we were doing years ago. And so long before the fight over what SFA's 3-digit letter, the obvious thing, we have a show with an obvious one. It should be SFA. And at a time when we were trying to come up with creative things for the other shows, the one-worders that needed 3 letters for our stupidly obsessive 3-letter shortening, SFA is going to be it. I just want to point out that technically the abbreviation for Starfleet Academy would be SA. Okay, now I'm really off the nerd wagon. But then your major point, to your point, Mike, yes, Starfleet Academy series can go outside, but where are you going to find? You've got to find the futuristic things. Now you're dealing with 32nd century. But they can go outside. They can come up with a new design on the AR wall and do it, and we almost don't know if they're really outside and found or altered a real life building in the flesh, or just added CG extensions to something else. Who are the bald Vulcans on Picard? Tavine is her name. She has, I can't pronounce her word, but she's all over the socials. Somebody may put her name in here. And they have a backstory. She's talked about this. So she's either a Trek nerd or she's been in good cahoots with researchers. She talks about she has a little bit of Deltan in her background. So there you go. John, you're saying, I'm looking at texting here, any engaged drive would have suffered a matter-antimatter breach if dilithium became extreme. Well, I know what I'm saying. We're talking about the data surviving the burn. I don't mean small D data, not large capital data. Data in the ship's memory banks and in the core computer core is usually in the saucer section, so of whatever the design is. So if the engines are, even if there's not a cataclysmic, even if there is a cataclysmic explosion, you would think maybe the forward end of the hulls there would be data still surviving. It's got to be shielded. But dilithium plays a part in the outflow. You have the matter reactions, and they put off warp plasma, and warp plasma flowing through the dilithium matrix is what allows the subspace bubble to be formed. So I need to get back and read my burn history and science. Thank you. Yes, data recorders and multiple CPU cores for redundancy. Yeah. So I'm saying the core essence history would have been survived and linked. There would have been varying damage to computer cores on ships. Hopefully there's still a central bank and hopefully memory alpha. Okay, getting into all this. But now I have questions. Now I have questions for Michelle Paradis. Wait, what? There can't be no Alexander because Pick is not Prime Universe? You're thinking Picard is not the Prime Universe? Yeah. Oh, well, John, I can't run his questions. I mentioned Memory Alpha, the actual, the Mirror Remain Memory Alpha, not the thing here. Oh, no. No, Robert. Why can I not get you up here? Okay, there. Now, why are you not showing? There we go. Not West Wing, probably more House of Cards. No. We're going to have the spirit of Sorkin. We're going to have the spirit of President Bartlett flow through whatever political we have going on here. No. I mean, at least the human Terrans, they can put up with stuff. Nope, I forbid it. My Star Trek House of Cards is my Star Trek West Wing pitch is my pitch, and it's going to be West Wing. There's still plenty of room for angst and drama and disappointment. Come on. Speaking of bird polls, Roddenberry has one too. Sci-fi versus fantasy. In other words, Gene Rick Trek versus Kelvin Kurtzman Trek. Not mentioning Moffat. Who? What? Okay. Post the link on that, Christoph, if you got it there. Duralti, who you would hire for Trek? Definitely people who knew their Star Trek. Or Kilbrand Richards, some fresh blood too. Well, some of us were research assisting before we had Twitter and digital screen caps to share it with the world, before we knew it was an industry. Just saying. I love Jorg. He should just be really happy he's living in the 2020s. That's all I can say. And happy birthday. I think he just had a birthday. People. People were butthurt because it wasn't Kirk's butt. Did I say that? Okay. Thinking more of an outside Starfleet perspective. Certainly Odo and Kira provided that, as well as Seven until recently. The more the franchise is just about people in Starfleet, the more it loses its ability to comment broadly on the modern world. Very true. And you know what? I would say that as much as people want to paint Vadic as the Star Trek world's best villain ever, and I know that's saying a lot, that scene she had where she finally unburdens the reason she's so driven and avenging, it does not paint the Federation in a good light. Even though it's, you're getting a lot of Manhattan Project. You kill millions to save millions or something. I would just say that we've had some commentary in that scene. Would you say so? Some uncomfortable self-reflection, holding the mirror up. Including the debate in the beginning about what to do with Jack. And it's a good old Picard. It's a good old Picard Beverly discussion like we would have in some of the times, actually all through Next Gen, the earlier years and the laters, including the situation I cited, the whole Hugh Borg infect the Borg or not debate they had in I, Borg. And what are you seeing? Yeah, this. They could come from families who are anti-Starfleet and don't want them there. A little bit the way, I don't know, early Nog, knowing his Uncle Quark wasn't thrilled. You could see. Or some of the guff that Worf got pushed back, or Worf trying to prove he was the Uber Klingon to overcompensate what people would be saying. This is true. Okay, Duralta, you got me. Yes. Tilly had the awkward humor thing, and then she and Stamets having amusing moments from season 3 onwards. Right. That's true. You'd get a bit here and a bit there and a bit there. It just wasn't an ongoing type thing. Cochrane Constant Fudge Factory does sound delicious. Well, did I say constant? Oops. That was the original term. Jeff came up with that term to describe the known math that we could triangulate how it wouldn't fit warp speeds with the stellar distances. And so Cochrane Constant became the Cochrane Factor. It's basically the formula. If you go back to That Which Survives, they categorically state at warp factor X, it will take X hours or days to go X number of light years. It's actually all three variables are there. You can figure out exactly how fast they're going. But that doesn't always fit, and it doesn't fit the classic formula. So there has to be a true variable involved with the, warp factor equals the speed of light cubed. So there's another variable, and that's where the fudge factor comes in. But I will totally. So Cochrane Factor Fudge Factory. Okay. Cochrane Constant sounds like a new email system, a new newsletter system for email. Oh, Melanie, do you have to go stirring up trouble with your questions? Oh, Jenny, how sweet. Yes, absolutely. We will see you in Vegas, back at the Rio. Thank goodness. Hey, Wade. No, I'm not there, but I'd love to come sometime. I visited Riverside as a side trip when I was at Northern Iowa University. They have a one-day con. They called it RodCon, but not for Roddenberry. It was their library was the Rod Library. And they called it Rod because the library sponsored a one-day mini-con. And they flew me in to be a guest. And my rental car, before I took it back, I drove down to Riverside and went through everything, went through the museum and met the guy, did a video, which I don't think I've ever posted, saw the birthplace and all of that. But I'd love to come sometime for the festival, just like I haven't got to, came close a couple of times getting to Vulcan, Alberta, but not quite there for Spock Days. Hopefully sometime down the line, and hopefully sometime in Riverside too. Do you go? Are you there? Good question, Nathaniel. You wonder if the writers will have the courage to have a cadet or two drop out. Yes, and you know what? Can we not have them drop out for nefarious purposes to go over and become the evil genius? Can they just drop out and become a civilian, and they can still pop up every now and then? And maybe they circle back in a few years and they make another go of it. Inspiration to those who don't fit the template of life by the book. A Star Trek Academy show that teaches us the values of Trek, showing us via hologram why these values are the correct one. Would that work? Well, yeah, sure it would. Fandom's fears over the years were that an Academy show would be put out solely to take advantage of the youth angst thing, to go for that demo, and that a lot of exactly what you're talking about here would get lost in the shuffle in favor of teenage melodrama. Basically, that was the fear at the time. Thank you, Sophia. Let's hit the like button. Thank you. On YouTube, thank you for being over there too. Let's see. SFA. The San Francisco archaeologists. Exactly. Oh, yes, this is the other thing. Yeah, Nathaniel, that was the thank you. Starfleet Academy and Starfleet Security, SA and SS, no thanks. Exactly. This is also why you won't ever see the chain restaurant. You won't ever see any waffen houses in the future. Very true. Oh, thank you guys. Thank you guys for the button hitting love. Yay. Okay. Oh, the Ux Trek. Okay. Hi, welcome. I know this is your first time bopping in. Have fans articulated what they want from a legacy show specifically? Or is it going to be just character miniseries like what Star Wars has done? If so, how would they choose which characters to do? Well, it's not a complete democracy. I'm sure polling would be a thing, but I'm sure as we get down, Terry's talking about how he specifically laid the groundwork. Some of this depends on popularity of the characters. Some of it depends on of the legacy characters. How can I put this delicately? Will they be willing to take up the challenge of a weekly show? And it's not 26. Here's where not having the old 26 episodes a week grind is a good thing. Even if, of course, you could always just pop in for every fourth or fifth show there. If you got a legacy character, you've earned your clout to just pop in and not have to be introduced or worry how we'll develop you. So there's that. You could be the once-a-year visit of Q or the once-a-year visit of Loxana Troy. Now, that would be a factor, but maybe not so much with only 10 a year. And look what this year has done. Geordi came in organically to the story. Aside from some screen appearances, Troy is coming in organically, 3 from the end. So, not a spoiler. It's in the photos released this week, everybody. So I think it's whoever's in charge would ultimately make the decision, but it would be a consultation with the actor if it's a legacy actor, obviously, and it would be you could have fan polls just the way he's doing right now. So there's that. You like the ACA better? The American the ACA is the that's the initials for Obamacare. Okay. Let's see. I know. We have an official Space Force now. It sounds hokey, but it's a start. It's Space Force. I know. Hopefully, maybe somewhere down the line that can be tweaked. It wouldn't be the first time the name of a service has been tweaked. Well, this is what we're saying, Duralta. Yes, as long as it's not some soap opera in Star Trek, a complete soap opera. Well, yeah. You can have, there's a difference between having character relationships and having the soap opera be the driving motivation for the show. See? Yes, this has been a retconned thing to say. Part Delton. Thank you. Thank you, Dave. Yes, Stephanie Chakowski helps suss out her character's background nicely. And yes, part Delton. Tavine, I love that name, Tavine. Give the guy a like, it won't hurt you. Last time I checked anyway. Thank you. Okay. Oh, and the rest of your comment was your BA humor. There's the poll. Let's see. Without Alexander, wouldn't Worf's family be 25% different? Oh, okay. Thank you here for this pitch, Zahir. The first episode of Star Trek West Wing, the Andorian president falls off his speeder and his physician is tragically assassinated by a rogue synth faction. Just another day, just another day in Paris. Mm-hmm. Oh, you and York should be working together. Oh, and by the way, since it's midnight in Germany, happy First Contact Day. Absolutely. Happy First Contact Day. Okay. Questions. Aha. It'll be after sundown in Montana, so still 26 hours to go. That's funny. I was trying to figure out what time of day do you call that? It's the evening. Was that in the AM or was that after sunset? That's the thing. Hey, Susan. Yes, I started off with Happy First Contact Day Eve, T-minus 40 years and counting. 40, not 30. Awesome. Well, Wade, when you're there, tell them who you want to see. I'm a cheap date. Yes. The bridge crew and the woman named Michael were back at Good Natured Riff and Contrary to the We Hate You of season 1. Yeah. Oh, season 1 Discovery. Wow. An exercise in how even the worst of anything can survive if it has rich parents. Oh, hello, Chris. Chris Neilus. Welcome on Twitch. Your favorite Star Trek series is Enterprise. Your question is, what's wrong with me? Not a thing is wrong with you. We are one big happy fleet. We have room for all. And there are no gates in space. Gays in space, but no gates in space. As in keeping, not as in McFadden. That got tortured really fast, didn't it? But welcome, if this is your first time with us, Chris. You can totally be. I know people whose favorite episode is Enterprise. They only cosplay in their blue jumpsuits. Okay. Hi, Timothy. Timothy John Haywood. Did you go by John before? Anyway, yay. Do I have any rare behind-the-scenes photos of the Star Trek model kits kit bashes used in TNG and DS9? I do. They used to be laying all over Image G, and I have some. And I kept them for years thinking I would do something with them, and then finally people have just screen capped and done that. In the past, oh, look at you, talk about stalking. In the past, you posted some pics of the USS Trial and the Ertl bug Judy Elkins built for DS9's Time to Stand. Maybe you can talk about that. Yeah, I was on the hunt because I could find nothing about the tug. And I finally tracked down Judy, and she had it. And before she moved back to Texas, I took shots of it because I knew it was a rare thing. That was the Fact Files days. I took that for Fact Files, and maybe that's where it got used finally. but I had the actual kitchens. Maybe I can talk about and show some in a Trekland show, if so. Maybe I can do that. We're also coming up. One thing I haven't mentioned is with Strange New Worlds not debuting until the middle of June. What is it? 14th, 15th, 16th? I should look. We're about to have, the 15th. Has anybody counted up yet the hiatus days here? We will have Picard end on April 20th. We'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We'll have 7 weeks of hiatus again. So we're going to be filling things up. Maybe I should do a Kit Bash Navy slideshow from that. Yes, the Dominion War ones especially. I'm amazed at how the Columbia? The ship that was it was the best of the Kit Bashes and the only thing they ever featured, and they did it to be cheap, and now it's like a favorite ship and it's been redone. It was in Picard again, digitally modeled. It's hysterical. But at least, the proportions worked out. Some of those Kit Bash ships, like they were in different scales to begin with, and we just kind of overlooked that. So I will be looking for topics. Maybe we'll do that. Let me see if I can figure out. We'll try to figure out some way to time data, have a timeliness factor. 22 years ago today, so and so first hit the airwaves or was filmed. I have to remember that. What is with this? Thank you. I am totally. I hardly support this message. Something that can also work. Academy has students who are from foreign forces or who don't intend to go into the service. Very true. Maybe we have some, oh my God, some Talarians again, like Jono back in the day, or maybe like some Breen, some Zenkethi. How about some of the big, whatever. As I agree, nothing wrong with you. Enterprise is cool, except Lower Decks, I have no Trek show that I don't like. See? Kimber, have you been lurking this whole time? Kimber Chesmore, look, I've got you right above the SoonerCon bag, right there, or you're in proximity. Yay! One of the original godmothers, queen bees of Oklahoma fandom, ladies and gentlemen. It's great to see you, Kimber, on here. Wow. Is it like a tornado today and you're in a shelter and you're stuck getting whatever internet you can get in and this is all you could find? Thank you. I just did a complete brain freeze, Linda. The Affordable Care Act. Yes. Oh, ACA is probably as the first 3 letters of Academy. You know what? I'm fine with SFA. It's like all these years we could have just been calling Starfleet 2 words and had it make sense. I mean, you want 3 letters for a ball cap or a t-shirt. But I cannot undo. We have undone so much of the visuals of the original series, and now my head canon that what we saw the 66 to 69 film is the dramatized adventures of Kirk's crew, not the actual depictions of what the real world look like. It's the only thing I've got to fall back on. But I don't want to undo the cover Starfleet written as one word in the Talos 4 Journal Order number 1 binder and paperwork. I can't bring my heart to change it. Although that's the one little tiny linchpin that everything else about one word Starfleet, that's all there is. It's big and original and early. And I am so in the weeds here, but welcome to my world the last 30 years. Yes, when Jorg was just a gleam in his mother's eye. He came to LA once and we went around he wanted to go to some of the film sites. This was like 15, 20 years ago. And that's how I met him, when he was just one of the Memory Alpha, when he was just one of the anal Germans back in those days. And I was all too happy to show him, especially Bronson Canyon. He was thrilled to see all the Bronson Canyon things. Hey, Dave, am I going to make it to this year's Penguicon? Well, I was a guest last year, so I didn't exactly think on their budget they would do repeat guests, at least that maybe some future year, maybe. It was awesome to meet you there and hang out and all that. And I hope they keep growing as they come back out of the, like everybody else, like Sci-Fi-Con just did, coming out of the pandemic. But no, I will go where I'm invited, though. As Will once said, better not invite me because I'll be there. Oh, all righty. So you're in Italy, Chris. Welcome to us. Welcome to Global Trekland. Then we're getting one by one. We're getting all of Europe. Got Austria, Switzerland, Portugal, Italy, UK. Who am I leaving out? Sometimes Ireland. Germany. Sorry, Deralta. I think I just scrolled back to you there. Well, Deralta, this was exactly the point. We don't need Star Trek teenage angst. Exactly. Right. Everyone remember your salmon. Exactly. How does your mom make first contact salmon? This could be happening. Are you, Christoph, are you suggesting a little Academy hijinks would be in order? Is that what you're saying here? Mm. Yes, I am, but informative too. Oh, okay, Kimber. I'll let you. Okay, I'll take a compliment. Okay. I know. And congratulations, I've sucked you into, detailed weed nerd nirvana here. Which alien would make his own audio sound effects? How do you mean, Carl? You mean like just in daily life would not have? I don't know. You have to tell me this. I know you're not kidding. I know you're serious. I want to understand. Oh, well, Kyle, you want a Star Trek series that isn't Starfleet based, like some other organization in the Trek universe. Well, that's what Star Trek West Wing would be. It would be Federation. It would be civilian. But you could go do something else. I mean, yeah, there were the people that wanted to do a DTI. They wanted to do temporal investigations, or they want to do, black ops, like Section 30. Oh, medical emergencies. Please state the nature. But yeah, you could, like what? Like the, what was it? The Federation Archaeology Council Picard spoke to. You could have Vosh and what's her name? Mariner's one-time heartthrob there. Para? Is that her name? I've gone blank. Her fellow pith helmet person. But I'm totally up for that. That will be one of the true tests of flexibility. If the powers that be are like, I don't know, we're going to do a Star Trek that's not on a ship and uniforms and stuff. I don't know. Will that fly? Oh, Michael Winslow. Okay. There you go. As you always say, I get you there. Starfleet Criminal Investigation Service. There you go. Specific arm of Starfleet Security. And the Judge Advocate General's office. It would be a co-op thing, right? The JAG office. Okay. Okay. Hello. Ankara Messi. Welcome to Speak Up. If you're indeed a real person. Hey, Mark, when am I coming back to Houston? I'll come whenever I'm invited, but I know I'll be in Houston when we get Con of Wrath done and we have our Houston premiere for the Con of Wrath. But thanks for asking, Mark. Some Borg in the Academy, that'd be interesting. You mean some XBs? And would XB be a racist term? Would it be an unfeeling thing, or would it just be? That's interesting. Oh, Kimber, you lurk here often, but you came out of the closet just now. Okay, well, you've blown it then. Oh, well, Timothy, you're welcome. What about STSA, Star Trek Starfleet Academy? That may be the actual name of the series. Yeah, but then now we've got 4 letters, and we don't want 4. We only want, if we're talking about the series nickname acronym, then we don't want 4. We need 3. It's a comedy rule. It's the rule of the universe. It's got to be 3. I know Memory Alpha says LD, right, for lower decks, which to me is learning disabled on top of that. Dramatized adventures equal the historical documents. Yes, I didn't mention. We were totally talking about this just on Sunday at the fan forum. This year's Sci-Fi-Con, the only convention I've ever been to where the panel turnout got bigger the closer it got to the end of the con, until the last panel wound up with 15 or 20 people. A lot of competition for panels in a hugely anime con. So, but we were just talking. Yes. Oh, those poor people. Galaxy Quest, everybody. Intercapping Starfleet. Maybe. Oh, what are you saying here, Mike? Never lose your affection for TOS. It's the first most correct period piece. STSA it is. Yes. Like I say, I'm just retconned. I've headcanoned an explanation for why Discovery is supposedly 10 years before Kirk and Spock. And Strange New. I love how everybody is so proud of how Strange New is doing a much better job than Discovery of leading into Kirk and Spock. So I don't want to go there. The ship has sailed. I just say that my 60s beloved show, which is well detailed, blueprints, research is out there. That's all for the fictionalized, dramatized adventures, the historical documents that we got. Will Rogers quote. Yeah. Can't wait for. Hello, Sean. Can't wait for Saved by the Bell, the Discoverse years. I know. Very good. Yeah, you'll have to give us a report, Christoph. By the way, my portales, I haven't got my email out yet, but tomorrow night is our Ask Dr. Trek Roundtable for April, Wednesday evening. So be ready for that. Oh, I just did this. Oh, see, I hadn't checked in. Yeah. Thank you, Melanie. For everybody in Arkansas and across the South, this was just north of me. Well, a little bit north of me. Yeah, tornadoes, power outages. Yeah. Oh, Jason, that's you. Okay. Thank you. That was your Twitter or your Twitch. How will we have big bad villains bent on revenge over Starfleet mistakes if the cadets learn from all the mistakes of the past? Oh, Jason, I bet they'll find a way. That's the challenge. That's the challenge of writing a Star Trek. Of course. Oh, Sean, what are you saying here? Star Trek Worf was mooted for about a decade with Worf on a bird of prey. There's that. Well, it was Michael's idea, so it's nice to see him validated. There's so much. I mean, if there was a just passage of time prejudice and people not being focused, sometimes you have to be slapped in the face to get it. And the Next Gen cast were all running around doing the magical mystery 25th anniversary tour, put out to pasture, and everything about Picard. And then it was like, well, Picard's doing this as a personal journey. Patrick's doing it. He doesn't want to repeat Next Gen, which is totally obvious and totally understandable. And we've come around the block enough now to where you've broken through that. The new has worn off of that itch. and now a reunion is okay, and that's what we're doing. But bottom line is, you get to see Michael back in fine form with Worf at the age he is now, and it's just awesome and bantering as never before. Let's say. Okay, this whole thing about the police academy, you all have been talking about it. There's a character in Police Academy that always made his own sound effects. Okay, thank you. Okay, now I'm with you. I was totally not connecting those dots. Right, Jones. Okay. Oh, Mark. Well, that's awful nice of you. I hope we get back. Well, we'll get back at some point. It'd be nice if Khan had us, but then I'd probably have questions to answer. Isn't Prodigy already an Academy show? Well, good point, Sean. We haven't seen it yet. It's been written for well over a year, and we're about to see it this fall, but with the gang going, but they may be on like detached Academy. They may be like a special curriculum, personal instruction with Admiral Janeway. I got the idea that they would be admitted under her tutelage, or maybe the plan was to go out on a 3-hour tour, or, just into the Badlands, and something happens and they don't get back in time, and they're not sitting around running into class every day for a semester or two. Well, you guys and your acronyms, when we shorten STSA to STS, Star Trek Starfleet, the Austrian band STS should do the music, Styrian dialect. But STS is also the abbreviation for Space Transportation System, which was the acronym index prefix for the space shuttle. We can't win. Maybe in Germany, or maybe in Austria. Excuse me, Christoph. And you thought the rule of the universe is 42. Right. Star Trek babies, like Muppet babies. Very good, Wade. Yes, absolutely. No, I'm with you. I got you. Absolutely. Hey, Geralta, will I be in either Bonn for FedCon or in Dortmund? No plan yet. Not coming up in a couple months, no. But as always, Geralta, if you want to see me, write to Dirk, write to whoever's doing things, and say, Larry hasn't been over in a few years. Come on back. This is true. Thank you for mentioning this, Christoph. The 4K edition of First Contact, well, all the TNG movies are getting released on April 6th, one day late for sure, but you'll scan it for the time of day hints over the long weekend. Easter Monday is a holiday here. Oh, what do you mean Worf is a comedic character? Never thought that'd be possible. Are you kidding? Good tea, nice house. I'm not a merry man. I mean, come on. You would love it if the first ep of Starfleet Academy is called The First Duty. So would I. If not, Ex Astra Scientis. Star Trek Prodigy. Red Squad. Dum 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 dum. I don't think so, Sean. SFA. This is actually something where, with all the bugaboos around this, and I started this, I see SFA and I think Starfleet Academy, or I think San Francisco Association or something. But no, apparently this is off color. Sweet F it all. No, that's not an Americanism that I know of anyway. Who's... Oh, hi, Moo. I'm sorry, I rolled right over you here. Are you new with us? This is an acronym from your Facebook, or if you're new to Trekland Tuesdays, welcome. That's a great idea. They've gotten really unimaginative. First episode of Strange New Worlds is Strange New World, or Strange New Worlds, plural even. That would be a cool callback, throwback. But welcome to Tuesdays Live. And yes, Worf is funny without trying to be. Oh, the funniest, I mentioned it on Second Opinion, when it looked like Raffi and Seven were about to launch into an awkward thing, and he said, I've been on many missions where lovers were. And she, oh, I'm not going. That is relief. That is relief was one of the most underappreciated best lines ever, I will say. Spoilers there for whatever. Hey, gang, it looks like it's that time. I think we're at the end of the chat. So thanks, everybody. I'm glad to see everybody jumping in with us from around the world. Let me just remind everybody, speaking of around the world, that I will be at Yuri's night Saturday night. It's easy to get your tickets. We'll post the links now and later. That's coming up. I'm going to be at SoonerCon at the end of June. Trying to think if there's any events coming up. WonderCon passed, and SciFiCon's over. And I think that's our next stop this year as we rebuild. But we've got the wrap-up of Picard coming. We've got First Contact Day tomorrow, and what will Paramount spring on us? And then, what I say, 7 weeks until the start of Strange New Worlds after the Picard finale. Well, we sure won't have the overlap phenomenon. We'll sure let the Picard finale have its due. And maybe I'll have to get those slides out of the Kit Bash Navy and get into that. Thanks for y'all for being with us today. Once again, I want to thank all of our Patreon folk. Yay. Thanks so much. Am I undoing there? Once again, I want to thank you. Clear the screen. Jump in. It's very easy to do our Patreon. I keep it simple and I keep it low level so everybody can get in. But you are helping us spread the reach of everything Trekland here on posting. I've got, I think, a guest lined up for next week, but I'm going to wait until we're all confirmed to mention it. But you want to be back with us next week, same warp time, same warp channel. You also want to check out the Trek Files this week if you haven't. Gary Goddard is back from the old Landmark Company talking about everything of the Star Trek experience. And yes, how that one special effect was actually made and how it was, dare I say, an accident. It's an awesome thing. So glad you all could come and join us once again. It's Larry Nemechek at Twitter and Larry Nemechek's Trekland. Like and subscribe and like again if you're watching on YouTube. And if you're not, go over there and do it. YouTube and Instagram and Facebook, portal47.net. Just welcomed a new member M from SciFiCon. So looking forward to having that. And Portal Ask Dr. Trek Roundtable is tomorrow night for the Portales. Our TeePublic store is there. You can get all your Cadet Alice. I'm hoping we can record some new Cadet Alice because we never finished Prodigy last season. So I've got some to post and some to get up. Cadet Alice is growing up. She will soon be 7 by the end of the month, but I hope she'll be doing some more shows with me, and I know she will. And that's gonna do it. I think, everybody. Thanks for being here with us. Hey, join us live when you can. It came up a couple of times, and I'm not going to go out and beat the drum, but if you are a fan of a convention in your area, your region, if you have somebody's ear, doesn't hurt to recommend, suggest, demand Dr. Trek be at your local con. I'd love to go and see some more of the world. Meanwhile, all that's happening, all that's coming. Gang, just thanks for joining me again. And yeah, take care of yourselves. Stay healthy. Do all the things. Stay woke. Going to be some interesting rides coming up here. Check the sources when you hear something and be alert, be open. If you get blindsided by something you never knew, just check well. I'll see you on the next Second Opinion this weekend.